I'm Emma Vance, 29 years old, and a data forensics specialist at a top-tier cybersecurity firm in New York City. My world is built on logic, patterns, and uncovering hidden truths. My life, meticulously organized down to my morning oat milk latte, felt stable. That is, until last spring, when the meticulously constructed facade of my family's honesty crumbled, revealing a betrayal so deep it threatened to redefine everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. Our family, the Vances, had always been complicated. Not in a dramatic soap opera way, but with a subtle undercurrent of unspoken expectations and unacknowledged sacrifices. My parents, Arthur and Celeste Vance, had raised 4 of us in a cozy, if slightly cramped, suburban home in upstate New York. I was the second oldest, nestled between my elder sister Chloe, 33, a social media influencer, and my younger siblings, Liam, 26, an aspiring musician, and Mia, 24, a freelance graphic designer. As we grew, our family expanded to include Chloe's husband, Ethan, a real estate agent, Liam's long-term girlfriend, Zara, a yoga instructor, and Mia's fiancé, Noah, a software engineer. Despite the growing complexities of 8 adults, our sacred annual tradition remained, the family vacation. Ever since I could remember, these trips were the bedrock of our family unity. Growing up, money was always a tightrope walk for my parents. Dad was a high school history teacher, passionate about his subject, but modest in income. Mom ran a small artisanal bakery, her hands perpetually dusted with flour, her days long and arduous. Yet, they stretched every dollar, every cent, ensuring that our summer getaway was sacrosanct. These were never lavish affairs. Our childhood memories were painted with the simple joys of camping at state parks, exhilarating road trips to obscure historical landmarks, or budget motel stays near the Adirondacks. I remember roasting marshmallows under a canopy of stars, swimming until our fingers pruned in chilly lake waters, and huddling around a worn board game when rain forced us indoors. A vacation isn't a luxury, my mother would often declare, her voice firm. It's a necessity for a functioning family. And she was right. Those trips, stripped of the distractions of daily life, offered us uninterrupted time, precious moments of shared laughter and quiet connection that fortified our bonds against the inevitable stresses of life. Even during the economic downturn when I was in middle school and both my parents took on grueling second jobs, they somehow cobbled together enough for 3 days at a rustic cabin. My father, ever the stoic, would famously say, "We might be broke, but we are not broken." Those words, steeped in a history of shared struggle, resonated deeply within me, shaping my understanding of family resilience. As we siblings entered adulthood and embarked on our careers, our vacations gradually morphed from humble excursions into more comfortable, even luxurious experiences. Chloe, with her knack for organization, suggested we establish a collective family vacation fund. By the time I graduated from university, we were booking proper resorts instead of motels. Last year, we splurged, renting a sprawling beachfront villa in the Hamptons for a glorious week. We indulged in jet ski rentals, hired a gourmet chef for a memorable evening, and even enjoyed a breathtaking sunset yacht cruise. It was by far the most extravagant vacation we had ever taken. But witnessing the pure, unadulterated joy on my parents' faces, seeing them finally revel in a taste of luxury after decades of self-sacrifice, made every single penny feel like a worthy investment. Unlike my siblings, who largely pursued creative and less financially lucrative paths, I had gravitated towards the cutthroat world of finance. After graduating with a degree in computer science and a minor in cybersecurity, I moved to the gleaming towers of Manhattan. Working 60-hour weeks at a prestigious investment firm, often fueled by lukewarm coffee and cold pizza, paid off. By 29, my income surpassed that of both my parents combined. This significant financial disparity, while never openly discussed, created a subtle, almost imperceptible tension within the family. I never flaunted my success. Ostentation wasn't my style, but I also never hesitated to pick up the dinner check or upgrade our accommodations during family trips. 2 years prior, recognizing the growing financial complexities, I had proposed a shared family expenses system. We adopted a digital wallet app, allowing each of us to contribute to joint purchases, with the app meticulously tracking everyone's contributions. The travel wallet, in particular, became the central repository for our vacation funds, with each adult contributing a percentage based on their income. As the highest earner, I typically covered a substantial 40% of the total expenses. My primary credit card was linked to the wallet as the default payment method, though everyone had their own cards attached as well. This year's vacation planning had been ongoing since January. My father, with a twinkle in his eye, had expressed a desire for a water-centric adventure. We had been enthusiastically exploring options along the Gulf Coast, perhaps even venturing into the crystal-clear waters of the Caribbean. Chloe had diligently researched luxurious rental properties, while Mia meticulously curated restaurant recommendations. Everything seemed perfectly normal, brimming with anticipation, until that abrupt and utterly unexpected group message arrived one Tuesday evening in March. "Family, we need to talk about vacation," my father's text read, appearing on my screen like an ominous cloud. "Your mother and I have been looking at our finances, and things are tighter than we thought this year. We think it might be best to skip the annual trip and focus on getting our finances in order." A cold knot formed in my stomach. I immediately called him, my mind racing. "Dad, what happened? Is everything okay?" His voice, usually so steady, was laced with an unfamiliar strain. "Yeah, Emma, everything's fine. Just unexpected expenses. The bakeries had a slower quarter than usual, and there were some unforeseen repairs around the house." He spoke vaguely, almost evasively, which immediately put my analytical mind on high alert. "But Dad, we have the travel wallet." I pressed my fingers, already navigating to the app on my phone. "I've put in a good chunk, and everyone else has contributed too. We have almost enough for a decent trip, even without my usual extra contribution." "It's not just about the travel fund, honey," he sighed. "It's the overall financial picture. We just can't justify it this year. We need to be responsible." His words struck a discordant note. Responsible. It was a word my parents had always championed, a cornerstone of our family values. Yet, a tiny, insistent voice in my head, the one trained to detect anomalies in data, whispered that something was off. I knew their financial habits. They were meticulous, almost to a fault. Unexpected expenses and slower quarter felt like flimsy excuses, uncharacteristic of their usual transparency. I offered again to cover the difference, to put in an even larger share, knowing my firm had just closed a lucrative deal that had boosted my year-end bonus. My offer was met with a firm, almost uncomfortable refusal. "No, Emma, we appreciate it, but no, we've made our decision. We'll just have to plan something extra special next year." My siblings echoed my parents' sentiments, though their texts sounded somewhat rehearsed. Chloe mentioned Ethan's sluggish real estate market. Liam complained about the low pay for gigs. Mia grumbled about clients delaying payments. Everyone seemed to have a perfectly reasonable, if slightly vague, financial struggle. I tried to push my doubts aside. Family came first. Family honesty was paramount, right? But the seed of suspicion had been sown. As a data forensic specialist, my job was to find the hidden truth behind layers of digital information. My mind was wired to identify patterns, detect inconsistencies, and follow digital breadcrumbs. This wasn't a work project. This was my family. But the instinct to investigate was almost impossible to suppress. Days turned into weeks, and the topic of vacation was carefully avoided during family video calls. Yet, an unease settled over me. I noticed subtle changes. My parents, who claimed money was tight, seemed to be less stressed than usual. Their voices on calls sounded lighter. My mother even mentioned a new, rather expensive-looking antique vase she'd bought for the living room. Liam suddenly acquired a vintage guitar he'd been drooling over for months. Mia posted Instagram stories of lavish dinners out, captioning them "treating myself." Chloe, ever the influencer, was pushing more sponsored content about luxury goods than usual, almost as if she was showcasing a lifestyle. These were minor details, but to a mind trained in anomaly detection, they accumulated into a troubling pattern. The true breakthrough came unexpectedly. One lazy Saturday afternoon, while aimlessly scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a string of photos Chloe had posted on her lesser-known private Instagram account, the one she used mainly for close friends and family, often forgetting I followed it. The photos, dated just a week after my father's money's tight announcement, showed Chloe and Ethan beaming on a pristine white sand beach, turquoise waters stretching behind them. A palm tree swayed in the background. The captions were innocuous. Paradise found! Much-needed escape. But my internal alarm bell screamed. This wasn't a local getaway. This was unmistakably a tropical destination. My heart began to pound. I immediately cross-referenced the photos with publicly available information. A quick reverse image search revealed the exact resort, the Coral Reef Grand, an exclusive 5-star all-inclusive resort in Barbados. My mind reeled. Barbados? When we were supposedly skipping vacation due to financial constraints, a wave of icy dread washed over me, quickly followed by a burning, furious indignation. I then remembered something Mia had mentioned weeks ago. A casual comment about needing inspiration for a new design project that involved tropical motifs. She'd even asked me about good photo editing software for landscapes. A pit formed in my stomach. Liam had been unusually quiet about his new guitar, deflecting questions about where he got the funds. The pieces, once scattered, began to click into place, forming a horrifying picture of calculated deception. My professional instincts kicked in, overriding the emotional turmoil. This wasn't just a hunch anymore. It was a lead. I decided to act. The first step was to discreetly monitor their online activity without directly confronting them. My specialty, data forensics, wasn't just about recovering deleted files. It was about tracing digital footprints, understanding network traffic, and analyzing behavioral patterns. It was about seeing the invisible. I started with the Travel Wallet app. As the primary account holder for our family fund, I had deeper access permissions, though I rarely used them. I reviewed the transaction logs, focusing on the period immediately following my father's announcement. My breath hitched. Days after their declaration of financial hardship, large sums, disproportionate to typical family expenses, had been debited from the shared wallet. These weren't small, everyday purchases. These were substantial withdrawals, labeled travel services, accommodation, and luxury experience. And the recipient of these funds? Not obscure vendors, but specific high-end travel agencies and luxury cruise lines. But the damning evidence came from an unexpected source. My parents' own digital footprint. My father, bless his technologically challenged heart, often used public Wi-Fi without a VPN and reused passwords. A tactic I had warned him against repeatedly. Armed with this knowledge, and driven by a cold, righteous anger, I began my deeper investigation. It felt wrong, a violation of trust, but the betrayal I was uncovering felt infinitely worse. I accessed their cloud backups, their synchronized photo libraries, their travel histories on various airline and hotel sites. It was a digital treasure trove of deceit. What I found made my blood run cold. There were photos. Hundreds of them. Not just Chloe and Ethan, but my parents, Liam and Zara, and Mia and Noah. All of them. On the deck of a majestic cruise ship, the Symphony of the Seas, cruising through the turquoise waters of the Caribbean. They were laughing, sipping colorful cocktails, lounging by the infinity pool, dressed in resort wear. My mother, who claimed the bakery was slow, was wearing a dazzling new emerald necklace. My father, who cited house repairs, was sporting a high-end designer watch. Liam was posing with his vintage guitar, clearly brought along for the trip, its value far exceeding anything a struggling musician could afford. Mia was sketching on a tablet, a scenic tropical backdrop behind her. Every single one of them was there, together, living it up, while I was back in my tiny New York apartment, diligently saving every penny, believing their fabricated story of financial hardship. The date stamps on the photos confirmed it. The trip had taken place precisely during the week we were supposed to have our family vacation. The week I had taken off from my demanding job, turning down lucrative freelance opportunities, all to be available for a vacation that, unbeknownst to me, was happening without me. A vacation I had largely funded. The discovery hit me with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just about the money, though that was a significant sting. It was the lie. The calculated, deliberate, unanimous deception. My entire family had conspired to exclude me, to invent a fabricated financial crisis, while secretly enjoying a lavish vacation with my own money. My stomach churned with a nauseating mix of hurt, anger, and utter disbelief. I couldn't confront them immediately. My forensic mind demanded irrefutable proof, a presentation of facts so precise and undeniable that they couldn't possibly refute it. I spent days compiling the evidence. Meticulously dated photos, geotagged locations, transaction logs from the shared wallet, cruise itineraries, flight details, even snippets of private group chat messages where they discussed how to avoid letting me find out. "Just don't mention the cruise around Emma," Liam had written in one chat. "She'll analyze the details out of us," Chloe joked, followed by a laughing emoji. "She's so paranoid about money sometimes," my mother had responded. Better safe than sorry. Paranoid about money? I was the one who had tirelessly worked, saved, and contributed the lion's share to our collective experiences. I was the one who believed in shared responsibility and transparent finances. This wasn't paranoia. It was prudence. And now, it was a weapon. The sheer audacity of it all was breathtaking. They hadn't just excluded me. They had actively gaslighted me, painting me as financially paranoid while they lived a lie at my expense. The contempt, the blatant disregard for my feelings and contributions, stung more than any financial loss. I decided to confront them during our next scheduled family video call. I needed to see their faces, to witness their reactions as their carefully constructed deception crumbled. I meticulously prepared a presentation, a digital dossier of their betrayal. It was cold, clinical, and devastatingly effective. The screen flickered to life. My parents, Chloe, Liam, and Mia, all gathered in their respective homes, smiled warmly, oblivious to the storm about to break. "Hey, Emma! How are things in the big city?" My father boomed, his voice radiating false cheer. "Things are interesting, Dad," I replied, my voice calm, almost unnervingly so. My siblings exchanged quick, uneasy glances. They sensed something was off. "I wanted to share some updates on our family finances," I began, my voice clear and steady. "Specifically, our travel wallet." I shared my screen, displaying the meticulously compiled evidence. The smiling faces on the cruise ship filled their screens. My parents' smiles faltered. Chloe's jaw dropped. Liam paled, and Mia gasped, clapping a hand over her mouth. "What is this, Emma?" my mother stammered, her voice thin. "This, Mom, is a picture of the Caribbean cruise you all took last month," I stated, my voice devoid of emotion, a professional delivering irrefutable data. "The one you told me we couldn't afford because money was tight." I clicked to the next slide, displaying the large debits from the travel wallet. "These are the transactions for your unexpected expenses and house repairs. All booked with my credit card, linked to the family wallet." Silence, thick and suffocating, descended upon the call. My parents looked utterly shell-shocked, their faces etched with guilt and shame. My siblings squirmed, avoiding eye contact. "You told me money was tight, Dad," I continued, my voice rising slightly. "You refused my offer to help. And all the while, you were all on a luxury cruise, laughing, celebrating, using my contributions to fund your secret vacation." My voice cracked on the last word. "Why? Why did you lie to me?" My father, usually so composed, stammered, "Emma, honey, it's not what you think. We wanted to surprise you. A big reveal, once everything was settled." I let out a bitter, disbelieving laugh. A surprise? By lying to my face for weeks? By making me feel guilty for even asking about the vacation? By going without me? Do you honestly think I'm that naive? Chloe, always quick to defend, blurted out, "It was supposed to be a little treat for Mom and Dad, Emma. They never get to do anything nice." We chipped in what we could, but it wasn't enough to make it truly luxurious, so… She trailed off, realizing her words only dug a deeper hole. "So you used my money," I finished for her, my voice sharp, and excluded me. The one who contributed the most, who offered to cover more, who believed your pathetic excuses. My gaze swept across their faces. Did any of you even consider telling me? Or was it just easier to lie? Liam, rubbing his neck, mumbled, "We thought you'd be too busy with work, Emma. You're always so focused on your career. We didn't want to bother you." "Bother me?" I echoed, incredulous. "You think being lied to, being excluded from my own family's tradition, is less of a bother than a simple, honest conversation?" My eyes welled up, blurring their guilty faces. "I took that week off. I turned down a major freelance project to be available for this family time. I believed you." The call descended into a painful shouting match, accusations flying, flimsy excuses offered, then crumbling under the weight of irrefutable evidence. My parents eventually broke down, confessing their shame, admitting they got caught up in the idea of a special trip for themselves and couldn't afford it without dipping into my larger contributions, and then felt too guilty to tell me. My siblings, cornered, admitted to being complicit, swayed by the lure of a luxury vacation they couldn't afford on their own and too afraid to stand up to our parents' scheme. The trust that had been the bedrock of our family for decades shattered into a million pieces before my eyes. The confrontation marked the beginning of a painful, necessary unraveling. I informed them that I was no longer contributing to any shared family funds, that my credit card was being removed from the travel wallet, and that any future family gatherings would be on an individual basis, not a collective one. The silence that followed was heavy, laden with the weight of shattered expectations. The emotional toll was immense. For weeks, I felt a pervasive sense of grief, mourning not just the betrayal, but the illusion of the family I thought I had. Sleep offered little respite, haunted by images of them laughing on that cruise, while I sat in my apartment, believing their lies. My work, usually a source of focus and clarity, became a blurry distraction. My boss, a perceptive woman named Miss Davies, noticed my downturn. She called me into her office one afternoon. "Emma, are you all right? You're usually sharp as a tack, but you seem distracted." I hesitated, then found myself pouring out the entire story, the raw, humiliating details of my family's deception. Miss Davies listened patiently, her expression sympathetic. When I finished, she leaned forward. "Emma, what they did was abhorrent. It's not just about the money, it's about the deliberate breach of trust. But you, my dear, you handled it like a true forensic expert. You gathered the facts, you built your case, and you delivered it with precision. That takes incredible strength, especially when it's your own family." Her words, acknowledging my professional approach to a deeply personal crisis, were an unexpected comfort. "What now?" I asked, my voice raw. "Now," she said gently, "you take that same analytical strength, that same commitment to truth, and you apply it to your own healing. You set new boundaries. You redefine what family means to you. And you choose who you allow into your inner circle." Her advice resonated deeply. The painful truth was, my family had exploited my generosity, not just financially, but emotionally. They had taken for granted my steady contributions, my quiet reliability, my unwavering belief in family first. The incident forced me to confront a pattern that had subtly existed for years. My role as the responsible one, the one who could always be counted on to pick up the slack, to fix things, to provide. And they had taken advantage of it. I needed space. I stopped answering their calls for a while, letting their frantic messages and tearful apologies pile up unanswered. It was agonizing, but necessary. I needed to disentangle myself from their web of expectation and obligation. I focused on my work, channeling my analytical mind into complex cases, finding a perverse satisfaction in uncovering other people's deceptions, a stark contrast to the personal betrayal I had endured. During this time, my friendships blossomed. My best friend, Sarah, a compassionate therapist, listened for hours, offering empathy and practical advice on setting boundaries. My colleagues, once just professional acquaintances, became a supportive network, their shared laughter and genuine camaraderie a balm to my wounded spirit. I realized that true connection wasn't necessarily defined by blood, but by respect, honesty, and shared values. A year had passed since the Great Caribbean betrayal. The raw wounds had scabbed over, and beneath them, new, tougher skin was forming. My initial rage had mellowed into a quiet, determined clarity. The emotional distance I had maintained was not born of spite, but a desperate need for self-preservation. I needed to see if their remorse was fleeting or genuine, if their apologies were merely attempts to re-establish the old dynamic, or a true recognition of their profound missteps. The therapy sessions my parents were attending, initially just a suggestion from me, had become a lifeline for them. Dr. Evelyn Thorne was the therapist I had subtly recommended, a name I had found through extensive research, specifically seeking someone who specialized in family systems and financial transparency. My parents, Arthur and Celeste, had always been proud, rarely admitting fault. To see them willingly delve into their past, to dissect the unspoken rules and favoritism that had subtly governed our household, was nothing short of a revelation. My father, the stoic patriarch, began to open up about his own childhood, revealing a deep-seated fear of financial insecurity that he had carried since his family lost their farm during the recession of the 80s. This fear, he explained, had driven his relentless pursuit of an image of stability and success, even if it meant making questionable choices. He had genuinely believed that by providing a luxurious experience for the others, he was somehow protecting them from the anxieties he had faced, unknowingly creating a different kind of anxiety and hurt for me. My mother, for years a silent enabler of my father's often rigid worldview, began to find her own voice. She recounted how the immense financial pressure of raising 4 children, coupled with my father's insistence on maintaining an image of success, had led her to prioritize superficial harmony over genuine honesty. "I just wanted everyone to be happy, to have nice things," she confessed to me during one of our cautious, one-on-one coffee meetings. "I thought if we could just get through the tight times, by any means, then everything would be okay. I never considered the cost to your trust, Emma." Her eyes, once so quick to deflect, now held a deep, aching regret. This wasn't the Celeste who used to make excuses for everything. This was a woman truly grappling with her past actions, seeking to understand the roots of her passive complicity. She even started attending a women's support group, finding strength in sharing her experiences and learning to assert her own needs and values. My siblings' journey was equally complex, though distinct. Chloe, the influencer, suffered a significant blow to her public image when rumors of the family drama inevitably leaked through the gossip mill. Some of her major brand sponsorships quietly dissolved and her follower count plateaued. This forced her to reevaluate her life. Stripped of the curated perfection she presented online, she sought out a career coach, focusing on building a more authentic personal brand, centered on ethical consumption and transparency, a direct result of our fallout. Our reconciliation began with her sending me a long, unedited voice message, raw with shame and regret. "I was so caught up in the optics, Emma," she cried, her voice trembling. "In keeping up appearances, for myself, for Ethan, for Mom and Dad. I just went along with it, hoping it would blow over. I was a coward. And I took your kindness for granted. I'm so sorry." Ethan, her husband, also apologized to me directly, admitting his discomfort with the plan but his reluctance to speak up against his in-laws. He promised to be more assertive in advocating for integrity in their own household. Liam, the aspiring musician, channeled his guilt into creativity, He stopped playing gigs for a while, dedicating himself to writing. He wrote a powerful, raw album exploring themes of honesty, regret, and the pursuit of genuine worth over superficial gain. His music, once riddled with vague complaints, now resonated with a profound authenticity that began to garner him real attention, not just from his girlfriend Zara, but from actual music critics in the indie scene. Zara, who had felt deeply uncomfortable with the deception from the start, but was hesitant to cause family strife, confessed her own struggles with complicity, and asked for my forgiveness as well. Liam offered to play a private concert for me at his tiny Brooklyn apartment, just me and Sarah. It was a raw, emotional performance, his guitar weaving a narrative of repentance and hope. "This is for you, Emma," he said, his eyes filled with tears, "for showing me what integrity truly means." Mia, the freelance graphic designer, found herself struggling professionally after the incident. Her usual effervescent energy was dimmed by guilt, making it hard for her to connect with clients. Noah, her fiancé, stood by her, but he too had been silently disappointed by her complicity. Mia's apology came in the form of a meticulously designed, beautiful apology card, handmade with intricate paper art. It listed specific instances where she had participated in the deception, acknowledging each one without excuse. "I let fear dictate my actions, Emma," she wrote. "Fear of disappointing mom and dad, fear of missing out, fear of not measuring up. I didn't have the courage you did to stand for what's right. I deeply regret it." She began volunteering her design skills for a local nonprofit that championed financial literacy, using her talents for a cause that directly countered the deception she had been a part of. Noah, seeing her commitment to making amends, eventually proposed to her, a small, intimate proposal that reflected their newfound shared values of honesty and simplicity. My own healing journey was equally arduous but ultimately liberating. I threw myself into my work, immersing myself in complex digital forensics cases, a high-profile case involving a global financial scam where I traced millions of dollars through shell corporations and offshore accounts, earned me a significant promotion to senior forensic analyst. The logical precision required for my job became a sanctuary, a place where truth was absolute and deception always left a trail. I cultivated new friendships at work, finding camaraderie with colleagues who admired my sharp mind and quiet determination. One of these colleagues was Mark Harrison, a brilliant software engineer with a wry sense of humor and a genuine kindness that shone through his usually reserved demeanor. We bonded over late-night coding sessions and shared complaints about office coffee. He knew about my family situation, having been present for some of my more distraught phone calls with Sarah. He never pushed, never pried, but offered quiet support and a steady, reassuring presence. Slowly, tentatively, our professional relationship blossomed into something more. Our first date, a casual dinner that stretched into hours of conversation, felt easy, honest, and refreshingly devoid of any pretense. Mark saw me, truly saw me, for who I was: complex, resilient, and deeply empathetic. He valued my intellect and my quiet strength, never once comparing me to others or expecting me to be anything other than myself. He introduced me to his own family, a small, close-knit group where communication was open and direct, a stark contrast to my own. And it was deeply comforting to experience a healthy family dynamic firsthand. The process of rebuilding our family was a slow, deliberate reconstruction, brick by painful brick. There were no grand gestures, no sudden, miraculous fixes. It was a series of small, consistent acts of honesty and effort. We started with monthly family check-ins, carefully structured by Dr. Thorne. These weren't about old grievances, but about present feelings, new boundaries, and future aspirations. Each person had a chance to speak, to listen, and to truly hear. Of Dr. Thorne guided them through exercises that encouraged empathy and active listening, helping them understand how their actions had impacted me, and how their own fears and insecurities had driven their behavior. The concept of family vacation was carefully re-evaluated. We opted for simpler, transparent gatherings, Our first vacation as a reconciled unit was a weekend camping trip to a national park, mirroring the humble adventures of my childhood. Everyone contributed equally, both financially and in terms of planning and labor. We cooked meals over an open fire, sang off-key songs around a campfire, and hiked through picturesque trails. There was no luxury, no pretense, just shared experience and genuine connection. My parents, surprisingly, seemed to enjoy it more than any cruise. My mother found joy in the simple act of setting up a tent, something she hadn't done in decades. My father, with a genuine smile, shared stories of his own childhood camping trips, free from the pressure to impress. It was a raw, authentic experience that began to knit the frayed edges of our family back together. My relationship with my parents, while still carrying the scars of betrayal, evolved into a more mature, respectful dynamic. They no longer expected me to be their financial safety net, nor did they treat me as a resource to be exploited. Instead, they asked for my advice, genuinely valued my opinions, and celebrated my professional successes with unadulterated pride. My mother even started taking a small business course, applying my forensic accounting advice to her bakery's finances, determined to run it with newfound transparency. My father, inspired by my unwavering commitment to truth, began to implement more ethical practices in his own modest investments, often consulting me for advice. He even joined a local community garden, finding simple joy in nurturing growth, a quiet reflection of his own personal journey. The siblings and I found new ways to connect. Chloe and I collaborated on a small pro bono project for a nonprofit that supported young female entrepreneurs, combining her new ethical branding expertise with my data analysis skills. It was a fulfilling project, and our working relationship, built on mutual respect and shared purpose, was a far cry from the old competitive dynamic. Liam, now gaining traction in the indie music scene, dedicated a new song to me, a poignant ballad about forgiveness and second chances, which became a fan favorite. Mia, with her art, created a beautiful, abstract piece for my apartment, a kaleidoscope of colors representing the fragmented past and the hopeful, vibrant future. Their acts were not about recompense, but about genuine connection and shared growth. We started a weekly sibling dinner, a casual affair where we rotated who cooked, often including Mark, Zara, and Noah, fostering a new, healthier, extended family unit. There were still moments of doubt, moments when the old pain would resurface like a phantom limb. A fleeting thought of them laughing on that cruise would sometimes sting. But these moments became less frequent, less intense. I learned that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting, but about choosing to release the bitterness, to let go of the anger that bound me to the past. It was about creating space for new, healthy memories to grow. It was about understanding that while their actions were inexcusable, they were also deeply human, born of fear and flawed judgment, not pure malice. This understanding allowed me to find a more nuanced path to healing, one that allowed for cautious re-engagement without sacrificing my hard-won peace. The entire experience transformed me. I emerged from the crucible of betrayal not as a victim, but as a stronger, more discerning individual. My professional life, once a refuge from family chaos, now felt truly aligned with my personal values. I started a small online advisory service, offering pro bono guidance to individuals dealing with financial manipulation within their families. It was a way to give back, to empower others with the knowledge and confidence to protect their own dignity and financial well-being. This side venture not only helped countless people, but also cemented my reputation as an expert in ethical financial practices within the cybersecurity community. One evening, Mark and I were sitting on my apartment balcony, looking out at the glittering New York skyline. I leaned my head on his shoulder, feeling a profound sense of peace. I mused, it's strange. The worst betrayal I've ever experienced ended up giving me the most profound clarity. Mark squeezed my hand. It often does, Emma. Sometimes, you have to break down to truly build yourself back up, stronger than before. You were always strong, but now you're also fiercely wise. And smarter, I added with a small smile. I learned that my worth isn't contingent on anyone else's approval or their financial gain. It's inherent, and it's not for sale. It's the most valuable lesson I've ever learned, paid for with a lot of tears and a lot of courage. I looked up at the vast, twinkling expanse of the city. I used to think my purpose was to support my family, to be the bedrock. But now I realize my purpose is to stand tall, to live authentically, and to choose who I allow into my life on terms of mutual respect and genuine love. It's a far more exhilarating and fulfilling purpose. My story isn't just about a family vacation hijacked or a family exposed. It's about the quiet, persistent voice inside that whispers your worth, even when others try to shout it down. It's about finding the courage to trust that voice, to set boundaries, and to reclaim your space, your joy, and your dignity. It's about the truth, always, eventually, finding its way to the light. And it's about the laughter, the kind that bursts forth from a place of deep contentment and security, the laughter that says, "You tried to break us, but you only made us stronger." This journey taught me that true family supports your growth rather than exploits your goodness. It's about building a life aligned with your authentic values, surrounded by people who lift you up, not tear you down. Your dignity is never for sale. It is the one thing no one can take from you unless you give it away. Hold on to it, protect it, and let it guide you. For in the end, the most satisfying victory isn't revenge, but the serene joy of a life reclaimed, a heart healed, and a future built on genuine love and respect. Every challenge, every moment of adversity, becomes a stepping stone towards understanding your own power and the unwavering strength of true, unconditional love. So, I ask you, if you've ever had to draw a difficult line with family members who were taking advantage of you, or who simply didn't see your worth beyond what you could provide, how did you find your voice, set your boundaries, and reclaim your life and your dignity? Share your experiences in the comments below. If the story resonated with you, if it helped you recognize your own worth, and the power of saying enough is enough, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming adversity and finding your strength, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own well-being and self-respect. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your dignity is never for sale. True family supports your growth rather than exploits your goodness.